Hi, beautiful YouTube family. Lisa A. Romano here, the Breakthrough Life Coach. Namaste. And today I want to discuss a pretty important thing. And I'm laughing because I say that almost every time I do a YouTube video. Today I want to discuss something really, really important. Because honestly, dear ones, healing is really serious stuff. So everything that has to do with healing on an innate divine level, on a heart level, is pretty serious. So this is pretty serious. So I received an email early this morning from a woman who asked me a very pertinent question. She said, I don't know why I simply just can't heal from codependency and why I'm having such a difficult time healing from, being abused by a narcissistic mom growing up. And no matter what I've tried, it doesn't seem to work. And I like what you're saying, but I want to know what it is. Essentially what she was asking me, I like what you're saying. I can hear what you're saying in YouTube videos and on your website. But I want to know exactly what it is that makes it so difficult to heal. And I really did some thinking. And I walked away feeling like when you are living in a state of survival, you have to rely on, think about being a newborn. And what does a newborn baby have to rely on? A newborn baby has to rely on its five senses in order to survive. And if you think about a 3-year-old who has a drug addict or a crack addict for a mom, or a mom who's got schizophrenia, or whatever, or a dad who's an alcoholic, whatever you have, or a rageaholic, or you live in a domestically violent home, which is terrible. It's all terrible. So let's say you're this little 3-year-old baby and you're living in this crazy, chaotic home. What do you have to rely on? You only have your instincts, your five senses. When we are think about people who are at war, or in war, what do they have to rely on? They have their five instincts there to rely on. So when you're living in a state of survival, it's absolutely impossible for you to heal, because to heal, you need to look within. To find peace comes from within, and it sounds so cliche. And I've heard so many people ask, why can't I find peace? Why can't I find happiness? Why can't I find contentment? And, we'll have pretty smart people say, you got to look within. You've got to find it within. How? And why can't I access it? Why can't I find the peace that I'm looking for? You can't find the peace that you're looking for if you're still living in a state of survival, which is why I'm so crazy and adamant about spreading the news about codependency. Codependency implies that I am stuck on something outside of myself for a sense of happiness or a sense of peace. Or I'm stuck thinking that the reason I'm stuck is because of something that's happening outside of me. When you really, really begin to heal from codependency, part of the process, and I teach this in my 12-week breakthrough coaching program, a big part of the process is learning to say, okay, I bought this house with a leaky basement, and now it sucks, but I have to roll up my sleeves and I have to fix it. So those of you who have been following my work and you understand that this is all the result of childhood programming and faulty belief systems and learning to believe in something that's just not true, you begin to understand that at some point, as crappy as that reality is, we have to learn to take responsibility for what's in the basement, which is our subconscious mind. And we've got to learn to negotiate on a conscious level, what's happening in the subconscious mind. And that's what I teach. That's what my 12-week breakthrough coaching program teaches. That's what my book, The Road Back to Me, helps you become aware of, and the number of books that I've written since then. So how do I attain this sense of peace? Well, we have to attain the sense of peace by first understanding what's wrong. So one of the ways that we teach kids how to tie their shoes is we watch what they're doing wrong, and then we say, no, Johnny, try it this way, or Susie, try it this way. And that's when we begin to understand that there's a better way of doing something. But if we don't ever learn what we're doing wrong, we can't fix it. And I believe something magical happens in the brain when you show it where the blockage is. So if the brain has a bunch of neural pathways, when awareness you're able to use your awareness to see, there's the blockage. I was living in a state of survival. I'm still living in a state of survival. I'm still living in a state of survival, meaning I'm codependent, because I'm still thinking on an unconscious level that I need something outside of myself to bring me peace. Hence the linchpin called codependency. So I believe that codependents are living in a state of survival. And those of us who are not healed from narcissistic abuse are still living in a state of survival because we're still dependent upon something outside of ourselves for that sense of happiness. And that sense of belonging, that need to rely unconsciously, dysfunctionally, to rely on something outside of self keeps me focused on the external world. And when I'm externally focused, guess what? I can't find the peace that's within me. I can't find the peace. I can't access the peace that's within me. That's why sometimes the best thing that can happen is going no contact with narcissistic, abusive people. That's why the best advice sometimes is to withdraw your attention from the external world so that now you don't have an excuse as to seek other people's validation. Because now in the quiet, that's why people go on retreats. They're looking to find the quiet. But when you're codependent, you take all of your problems with you. So you can go away for a month. You can go away for 6 months. But if you're still codependent and we haven't healed the unconscious belief systems, you're taking all the chaos with you, dear one. So you might be able to attain a sense of peace for temporarily in Bali or India, wherever the hell you're going to go, to look for this peace. You might be able to do that, go for a spa weekend. But when you're codependent, when you step back into your life, then all those problems come back. So codependency and means that you're living in a state of survival still to some degree because you're codependent on the idea that something outside of you is keeping you from attaining the peace from within. So many of us have a difficult time finding that inner peace because we are living in states of survival and we're relying on our 5 senses. We're attached to something outside of ourselves. And in the attachment to something outside of ourselves, we are actually pulled off course. We're pulled away from the divine self. And when we're attached to things that out here, even if it's an idea like I'm not good enough or I'm stupid or I'm not interesting and I have conversations with other people. People think I'm stupid. I'm afraid they're going to think I'm stupid. Even that is a codependent idea because you're codependent on the idea that something outside of yourself is preventing you from enjoying the peace that is within. So I hope that answers this brilliant question. And I hope that it has helped some of you get a little bit clearer about why it is peace might be escaping you. Because really peace is within you. But when you're externally fixated and you're relying on your 5 senses because you're still living in a state of survival, or you're codependent, which means you're externally focused, until you start cutting the ties, those psychic cords, to any idea, any false illusion that has you believing that you need someone else's validation, or any idea that someone else absolutely has control over your vibration, because they don't. You can learn to control and master your own vibration. I talk about that in Quantum Tools to help you heal your life now. The more you cut those cords and those ideas, to cut those strings to dysfunctional ideas, the more able you will be to experience peace by learning to look within. And in the quiet and in the turning away of everything that's external, you reconnect with the divinity that's within you because you are born of divinity. One more thing I want to add. For those of you who follow my work, you know that I'm not religious, and I will take, like I said, wisdom anywhere I get it, anywhere I can find wisdom, a tree, a rock, you name it, and I think rocks are like narcissists. Like you try to talk to a narcissist and it's like talking to a rock, you like try to mold a rock. You can't do it. Try to get a rock to see your point of view. The rock isn't going to see your point of view. So even in looking at a rock, you can learn. Okay, a rock is like a narcissist. That's why it feels like this every time I try to connect. You can't ever try to connect with a rock. You break your foot. So even from a rock you can learn, dear one. But recently I had a client who had a lot of trouble with the idea of getting a divorce because she felt like God had ordained this marriage. And she came from a very, I think it was a Baptist background, if I'm not mistaken. So forgive me, dear one, if I've got the religion wrong. But I think it was a Baptist background. And she wanted to get divorced. She was very unhappy and she felt like she was married to a narcissist. And she felt much happier when she wasn't with him, which is a big clue. That's a really big clue. But anyway, so scripture is being thrown at her, like what God has brought together, let no man separate. Her husband said things to her like, well, I take my wedding vows very seriously. You're giving up. We have 3 kids. Look what you're doing to the kids. You're being selfish, blah, 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 blah. And, like I always do, I ask my clients, can I give you my interpretation of that scripture? Sure, she says. And I said, sure I can. She said, sure I can. I said to her, I feel that the union that is being spoken about in the Bible has nothing to do with marriage, in my opinion. I think that the union or the scripture that refers to what God has brought together, let no man separate, describes the female egg and the male sperm. And God brings that together because God, creator, life source, if you don't like the word God, creator, source, whatever, the infinite intelligence, what an infinite intelligence, even Max Planck and Einstein believed in this infinite spirit, this infinite intelligence. If you don't believe me, look it up. But they did, so they even humbled themselves. They said any scientist that is really seriously involved with how this world, got created will ultimately come to the conclusion that there is a master designer of it all and that there's a field that we all communicate in. And it's just obvious. But anyway, what God has brought together, let no man separate, in my opinion, is the egg, the female egg, and the male sperm. And it is that boom, that point of creation. And there's a great video out there that one of my clients also sent to me. And it's a video of what happens at a cellular level when a sperm fertilizes an egg. It looks like the Big Bang. You can actually see light happen. There's an explosion. It's so beautiful, dear one. You're so perfect. You're so incredible. You are divine. The fact that you're here is a miracle. Really? Seriously? So I believe that our programs separate us from what God brought together. When we're born, we forget our divinity. We don't remember that we're connected to Source, that we're an extension of Source. We forget. So anything that helps you reconnect with the divine source within you, that helps you to detach from the external, that helps you to get out of living in a state of survival, will ultimately bring you to a place in your life where you understand that it's not your fault that you have unconscious programming, the man or the program or the world of Caesar was done to you, that you at your core are perfect. It's not your fault, that you're divine, and that anything that happens out of the programming is a byproduct. That's the effect, but the cause was not your fault. And as we approach these ideas and we begin to heal the shame that binds so many of us, like John Bradshaw says so brilliantly, I love him. And those of you who are struggling with shame from dysfunctional families, I do suggest you check out his work. He's just really, really incredible. He's got some really good meditations out there too to heal the inner child. But in a nutshell, dear ones, we're all perfect. And any idea that has kept us from believing that is of the world of Caesar or of the maternal world, the material world, like Eckhart Tolle talks about, the superficiality of the world. It's all BS. It's all nonsense. You're perfect. I don't care if you're 800 pounds or 1,000 pounds or 20 pounds. I don't care what color you are, if you've got purple hair or green hair. You, at the moment of your conception, became enough, an extension of all that is. So learn to understand what went wrong. And if you're living in a state of survival, understand that that's preventing you from becoming peaceful. So you want to work at healing from codependency. You want to work at any idea, any type of woe is me that's going on. Like, I can't move ahead because of this person. I can't move ahead because of my race, or I can't move ahead because of my age, and I can't have that because whatever, I'm a woman, or I can't do that because I'm a man. That's, as a man thinks, so is he. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Not because you can't have stuff, just because you've told your brain you can't. And your brain is such a thing that it has to believe, it has to work with whatever information you give it. So if you have fallen, if you've like in the Matrix, if you've taken the pill that has you believing that you must be like everyone else, then your brain is sort of like a computer, and it's just going to take direction from there. So you are the ultimate programmer, but you can't program your brain, your computer, until your awareness has expanded, which is why I make these YouTube videos and I do what I do and I write my books and I create coaching programs. It's all because I'm trying to help people awaken and become more aware of their own self so that they can successfully confront any dysfunctional patterns within them that has them believing that they are not enough as they are. And once you know that you're enough, in spite of all the craziness that's around you, guess what? You heal from codependency and you can look within. And guess what you find? I'm getting goosebumps. You find that you were perfect all along. And that your peace was right under your nose, right in your heart space. And it is a moment of integration. I'm getting goosebumps like crazy. It is such a beautiful moment of integration. And it's like being born again all over again. Namaste, dear ones. I bow to the love and the light in you. Oh, and by the way, my latest book has just been published. Codependent, Now What? It's not you, it's your programming. It's actually a workbook that you can use to help you heal from all these ideas. Imagine that. I almost forgot to tell you that. Namaste. Bye.